आइडिया से हुई होगी। अब जैसे पश्चिम बंगाल के सौहार्द डे हैं, वो पौराणिक कथाओं और देश के गौरवशाली इतिहास से जुड़ा लेखन करते हैं। जब उनके मन में पहली बार ये विचार आया होगा कि इस दिशा में बढ़ना है, लिखना है, तो वो सिर्फ सोचकर नहीं बैठ गए, उन्होंने सही एक्शन लिया, लिखना शुरू किया और आज इसका नतीजा हम देख रहे हैं। ऐसे ही
Greetings. This is Souhardya. I'm a 19-year-old author, columnist, legislative researcher, and podcaster. And I am the next showstopper for the 9th episode of the CAMS Achievers program. For my accomplishments, I received the Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Bal Puraskar 2021, the highest civilian honor presented by the Government of India to citizens up to the age of 18. Presently, I'm working on geopolitical analysis and following legislative trends in the educational space. I was also one of the 75 Prime Minister's Yuva authors shortlisted under the Ministry of Education's PM Yuva scheme. My latest work, Pratap Jung, The Ultimate Sacrifice, a work of historical fiction set against the backdrop of 1857, was published by the National Book Trust India and recently released as part of the PM Yuva series at the New Delhi World Book Fair 2023. To know more about me and the Achievers program, catch me live on the 31st of March at 4 p.m. on the 9th episode of the Achievers program by knowledge and awareness mapping platform CAMP. Do you know that you can also be a part of the CAMP Achievers program if you have done something exceptional or innovative in life, or have achieved success using your innate talent and want to shine bright? This would be a good opportunity to showcase your journey. On Camp Achievers, you may connect with the right people and gain your true potential. Well, what are you waiting for? Fill out the form in the link below and provide your details to get enrolled on the Achievers program. And who knows, you may be the next achiever.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Achievers, Leaders of Tomorrow's 9th episode. I, Aniket Arora, host of the episode, would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Knowledge and Awareness Mapping Platform, CAMP. CAMP is an initiative and knowledge alliance of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Institute of Science Communication, CSIR, NISPO, a constituent institute of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Ministry of Science and Technology, with industrial partner NISA Communication Private Limited, NCPL, Noida. CAMP was inaugurated by Professor K. Vijayaraghavan, former principal scientist, advisor, Government of India, and Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, former Director General, CSIR, on 3rd April 2019. Given the growing pace and complexity of the knowledge system in the present times, it has been realized that there is a critical need to quantitatively assess the awareness and knowledge of students on various subjects regularly and objectively. In 2019, CAMP was established to find and encourage exceptional and talented students in the fields of science, technology, and humanities all across India. I would also like to inform you that the result of the CAMP NASTA exam has been out. On our social media pages, you can also check the names of the national, state, and district level toppers for the NAFTA exam. Moreover, I would like to announce that the registrations for NAFTA 2023 are open. You can register from our website at www.camp.res.in. Coming to our series, Achievers, Leaders of Tomorrow, we hope to inspire students to be creative, discover their true potential, be inspired by great things in life, and help develop the nation through their unique ideas. In this series, we are interviewing individuals who have achieved success using their innate talent or have done something exceptional or innovative. This interactive session will help students to understand the journey of our young achievers and help them gain insight into how they can also achieve their true potential. Today, we also have the privilege of having some of our prominent dignitaries from our camp planning and monitoring committee, as well as Ministry of External Affairs. I would like to welcome Professor B.B. Dar, Chairman, Camp Planning and Monitoring Committee.
Thank you. Thanks. Go ahead, go ahead. Ankit, go ahead.
I think it's actually some network glitch.
She's running a little late, but she's going to be joining us in 5 minutes. It is an honor to have you all with us today, and we would like to express our gratitude for sparing your precious time to appreciate our young achiever, Mr. Souhardya, on our platform. Well, after the success of our previous episode, where we invited many young achievers, today we have with us Mr. Souhardya, who is a 19-year-old young author, and like all our achievers, the recipient of the Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Bal Puraskar. He has self-published 3 books on Indian history and mythology: Scion of Suryavansh, the Ramayana in English, the Chronicles of Suryavansh, the Rise and Fall of the Suryavanshis, and Pratap Jung, the Ultimate Sacrifice. Moreover, he is also a columnist for the Sunday Guardian and a podcaster, hosting a show called Cosmographia, the Greco-Romans, the Egyptians, and us. So, Souhardya, let me start by congratulating you on your accomplishment on behalf of CAMP, CSI and NISPA, and NCPL. Please, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you for the warm introduction. Am I audible?
Yeah.
You're audible.
Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Professor Dhar. Good afternoon, Arshidi. Glad to have you all here. And also, thank you for the initiative. Thank you for having me today to interact with these brilliant young minds. So just to start off, I'm an author. I'm an author of historical fiction genre. Here's my latest work, Pratap Jung, which is published under the PM Yuva scheme by the National Book Trust India, under the Ministry of Education scheme that was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2021. And this scheme particularly aimed at, bringing the power of Indian narrative out to the world, which is also in a sense, bringing good Indian fiction out into the market, out in the stands, and to ensure that, cultural narrative is something that diplomats look at, because in today's world, especially if you have the power to influence other cultures using your narrative, that is something that's considered to be one of the great characteristics of a nation. And and I started my podcasting journey way back in 2019 when I started Cosmographia, the Greco-Romans, the Egyptians, and us. Cosmographia was primarily a show dealing with the mythical tales from around these civilizations, around these cultures. And what I aim to show is I aim to connect these using a thread, where I talked about the different tales and narrate those to the audience in a manner that kind of, the best appealed to people of our generation, basically the Gen Z. Here are 2 of the works that I self-published earlier. So I made a transition from the self-publishing industry to the traditional space. Pratap Jung, like I showed, is my traditional publishing debut. And this one was the second work I self-published. This was way back in 2019. And here's the first one. This was way back in 2017. This was a book of poetry. Right. So that was a bit about my writing journey. Alongside, I'm also a legislative research assistant to the Office of Member of Parliament. And I've been primarily following, legislative trends in the educational policy making space. So, for instance, I've been looking at I've been looking at the implementation of the NEP 2020, as well as following PMSs and certain schemes which aim at bolstering technical education among the Indians, particularly among people belonging to underprivileged and underrepresented sectors. Alongside, I've been working recently on a G20 proposal, which is basically something that aims at, driving sustainable entrepreneurship by using digital infrastructural framework and making it publicly accessible. And this is primarily a research sort of paper. It's not a paper, it's a primer actually that I'm working on, and is for a presentation to members of the G20 countries to think about, deliberate about, and eventually come to a decision, hopefully. In addition, I have been closely involved with several organizations, including government organizations, working towards restoration of certain cultural sites, cultural sites like Bishnupur and Patra in Bengal, for instance, using artificial intelligence modeling. Which is something that has gained a lot of popularity recently, especially after it was tried, in Europe and in certain other places, including in China. And so cultural restoration is something I've been up to recently, using the power of artificial intelligence. So that's gained some popularity recently. And that's a bit about myself. Glad to be yours.
Sorry, I was just on mute. That's pretty amazing. So you just found your talent in the, a very young age. So like, I just want to know, when did you first discover your talent as an author?
I wouldn't necessarily, term it a talent per se, because it was more of an urge to tell, a story in a format that best appealed to readers of the young generation. And when I was young, especially when I was around 11, 12, I remember I was in grade five, fifth, I guess, and I visited some places. I visited certain places of cultural significance with my parents, because both of them are into history. And what I found surprising is members of today's generation, the Gen Z as they call it colloquially, they're not that into the philosophies of the old. Basically, the philosophies that have been told, or kind of been narrated in the epics, as well as kind of been put forward by the ancient Indian texts. And it's not just limited to texts; it's also concerning certain places of historical significance that have been kind of not so well highlighted in the recent days. Which is when I first had an idea of writing travelogues on the places I visited, because I'm an avid traveler. So I thought, why not write about these places and bring those to the forefront? And that is when I started pitching certain articles, especially travelogues initially, to journals like the Outlook Traveler and the Sunday Guardian. And some of those thankfully got accepted, and they kind of published me. Some of my first articles I remember were on Malda, on Bishnupur, and even on Mewar, for that matter, because I wrote about certain stories of these places. I retold those in a manner that hadn't been done before. And that is when around my grade 7. So I remember I had the summer vacations going on. So I kind of wanted to retell Ramayana in a format that that the Gen Z would particularly like, and that is when I first thought about writing it in the poetic format. So it's not a very big volume. It was like around 60 pages at most. It was retold in the poetic format, and that is when I kind of started my writing journey.
That is still a great achievement for, someone who's in class 7. I'm sure that's, you must have felt amazing at that time.
Yeah, it was amazing, to be honest. I mean, whenever you have your first work out there, it is an amazing feeling. But then you also have this feeling of nervousness that your work is out there for the world to see and read and to sort of I don't know, just I mean, you have a mixed bag of feelings. You have mixed bag of emotions, to be honest. So that was what happened to me as well. I mean, I'm sure many of the author colleagues I have would agree when I talk about this, because but yeah, eventually despite all the nervousness and the sort of uncertainty that you have, I kind of moved forward, and decided to go publish my work. And yeah, that's how it started.
Wow, wow. Okay, before we get into more question and answers, I would like to now invite our very special guest, Professor Garg, who has always been a supporter of the Achievers program. He has been associated with various prestigious organizations like the Association of Indian Universities, Central Mining Research Institute, and Banaras Hindu University. He has been actively involved in the decision-making bodies of the country at various levels from time to time. As Senior Vice President of Ritanand Balt Education
Oh,
Foundation.
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I have to go. So yeah, I must congratulate you for this achievement. I have a few questions before I go. Sorry, I cannot attend you whole, but I'll try if I can get connected on mobile. Where are you located right now?
I'm presently in Bengal, sir.
Okay, Bengal is who best one. Calcutta, Kolkata, or somewhere else.
I'm actually native to Midnapur, but I
Okay,
kind of live around Calcutta. And
okay. And what are your parents? How did you get into this? They must have influenced
my
you.
parents, yeah,
Yeah.
my parents greatly influenced me because my father's a professor of history,
Oh,
and my mom's a teacher of history as well. So kind of, my whole family has a background in history. So I had
oh,
this sort of self library. We have these
good,
libraries that
great,
kind of went through the texts and stuff.
great. Oh, then you are a genetic writer. You got genes in it. Another question I just wanted to know. You have been started now writing travel logs or not yet?
Yeah, I did write a few travelogues, but
Hmm,
those were way back in 2017. I mean, I started around 2016, but
hmm.
then I published my first travelogue for the Outlook Traveler around 2020. So that was during the COVID pandemic, and I felt like Bishnupur was a region I, kind of wanted to highlight because
Good.
of the cultural significance and stuff. And I went ahead and I also decided to talk to a few people in the Bengal Ministry, the tourism
Hmm.
department specifically, and then we brought together.
Very good, very good. So yeah, I have to go for a meeting. I'll try to see remain connected. But let me tell you, camp is very proud of people like you.
Thank you so
This
much, sir. It's a
this
privilege to be here.
Ankit is doing a wonderful job coordinating this whole thing, and
Thank you
you
so
will
much.
see you will be speaking to the whole country in this platform.
Right,
Definitely.
sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Not anything I'm obliging you. I'm saying the truth. So you will south, east, west, and that is a platform really a young man like you can get, and that is an exposure. And
Right.
we at camp want to develop such talent, both science, technology, and humanities. Humanities is also there, and you come under that heading. I will take your leave. All the best. Speak to the friends all over the country, and Ankit will coordinate. Ankit, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your precious time.
Okay, great. I'll take off.
Okay, so before we proceed with more questions, I would like to introduce Dr. Ashit Dua. Dr. Ashit Dua, she is a consultant for the Overseas Indian Affairs Division at the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. She has done her PhD on Indian diaspora in Africa from Jawaharlal Nehru University. Formerly, she was attached with the editorial division of the National Book Trust, India, Ministry of Education, Government of India. She is a regular contributor to the national and international newspaper and journals, some of which include the official Ugandan national newspaper, the Daily Monitor, Financial Express, and the magazine Diplomacy and Beyond Plus, in association with
Thank you, Ankit.
Government of India and the setup.
Let it be. Thank you. Thank you
It's a
so
really
much.
impressive profile I've been reading.
It's
I give it to
okay.
you, Dr. Ashidua.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much. Firstly, I want to say I'm proud of you, Souhardya. Your book is actually amazing, and it was a pleasure working on it. And many more to go for you. So proud of you for that. And those who haven't read the book, I will definitely advise It is a must read. You will get a different side of history, characters which are not so popular, and you'll realize they are being recognized, but not on a popular domain. They are very popular in regional texts, but it is something for a mainstream history person to know about these characters. And Pratap Jung, that way, Lal Pratap Singh, amazing to read, and it was a delight to work on, and I'm proud
Thank
of you.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And same here. Absolutely. Also, thank you for whatever you've done for the work. It was brilliant collaborating.
Been a true inspiration to the entire nation. So, Souhardya, congratulations on that. The entire
He is
purpose of
actually is.
Achievers, yes. So, Dr. Ashish, the entire purpose of this Achievers program is to, inspire students to be creative, discover the true potential. And that's why we invite individuals like Souhardya on our platform so that they can motivate other students of their age or even younger to be achieve their best, to achieve their true self, something more than that. That is the entire purpose of this Achievers series. Okay, let's proceed with some questions. So I'll just say that if you have any questions, please raise your hand and turn on your screens so I can pick you up one by one and you can interact with Souhardya and ask your questions. Okay, so we already have started receiving questions. So first of all, we have a question from Arav Sudhir Sablik. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you, sir, for choosing me. My question is that what is the name of that book?
Oh, the one that was recently published. It's here. It's called Pratap Jung, The Ultimate Sacrifice. It's about Lal Pratap Singh, the Prince of Kalakankar, and is set against the backdrop of the first war of Indian independence in 1857. Aniket, can I do something? I'll just drop the link to the work in the chat, and people can, should they be interested, get their copies through that.
Yes, definitely, please.
Yeah, just give me a moment.
Sure.
I'll drop the link to the NBT website first because there's a 10% discount that they're providing. And I'll also send the link to the Amazon website because some people find it more convenient, to use Amazon. Just give me a moment. Arav and everyone else, you can get your copies of Pratap Jung, The Ultimate Sacrifice, through this particular link. There's a 10% discount that NBT provides you at checkout. So, also here's the Amazon link to the work. Are those links viewable? Could
yes.
somebody confirm?
Yes, the link is visible.
Right. Great. All right. Thank you so much, Arav.
Okay, we have another question from Hari Krishna AS. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you for choosing me. Sir, when did you started your writing of books?
So my first self-published work was when I was in grade 7. That was when I was, I guess, 13. Yeah, I was 13 back then. And like I said, it came out, more like an urge. I wanted to tell the story to the world, and which is why I kind of went forward with it when I was 13 and decided to get it published. My second work was when I was 15, and then post that, I guess, here, Pratap Jung is, and I'm 19 at the moment.
So, was there any restrictions from your parents when you were writing books?
Not necessarily, because I mean, we can come to the academic commitments part of it, which kind of clashes with the schedule when you have something specifically set aside for your authorship. But my parents were very cooperative, to be honest. They're very supportive of my endeavors, and I used to, write. I even do that nowadays. I do everything during the vacation period. and during the weekends especially. So nothing of that sort, to be honest. They were extremely cooperative. They even helped me with resources and accessing archives and museums, so that I could better build my narrative, and took me to a lot of places, because when you're writing historical fiction, the visual part of it is very important. So when you build the visualization, I think that better relates to your audience. The relatability bit, I think my parents helped a lot in that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to say, if you have any question, please raise your hands and turn on your video. It gets easier for us to pick you. I'm also receiving some questions in the chat. So I'll just read them. So there's one student, Abhishek, he wants to know what was the biggest challenge you faced and how did you overcome?
I think every historical fiction writer would agree when I say this. And the biggest challenge I faced was the visualization, building the world. Because when you're writing historical fiction, it's essentially a period, writing. So, for instance, this latest work of mine, it's set in 1857, against the backdrop of the first war of Indian independence. So you need to have the characterization built in that format. You need to recreate the world as it was at that point of time. So you need to build these things. You essentially need to create your narrative in a format that relates with the audience. And for that, I guess we do have to go to a few places. For instance, I visited Lucknow as I wrote this particular work. I think somebody's writing something in the chat. Um, right. So, for instance, we visited a few places. When I first started building my narrative, and recreating the world was. I mean, that's one part of the challenge. But the second part is also, when you talk about the dialects, because essentially today's conversation, the conversation we are having today, has evolved over the ages. So dialogue is an important part of historical fiction writing. When your characters speak, you get to relate that better. And yeah, these were some of it. So honestly, I am a voracious reader. So some of the authors who inspired me include Mr. Pati and Anand Neelakantan, the writer of the Bahubali series. And going through their works, essentially understanding the fact that the vernaculars could also be integrated with the conversations to build that relatability part of it. In the world building, in a narrative building. I think that is the manner in which I kind of overcame the challenge.
So I'm sure you must have faced this writer's block.
Yeah, I mean, writer's block is essentially when you do not really have creative ideas, cooking up in your mind. And I think every writer faces that. Every writer faces that. But that's when I mean, what I feel writer's block is, I do not really sit down with a pen and a paper, a blank piece of paper and a pen, and just think about stuff. I do not do that. So I write when ideas come to my mind. I not necessarily do it every day, or just fix a particular period when I'm going to write. That's not something that writers do. So essentially, writers should be open to accepting ideas from the environment around them. They should be perceptive of their surroundings, and I think that gives them inspirations to continue on with the writings, to even find inspiration, which to incorporate in their works. And that kind of is how you get over writer's block. But yeah, writer's block is something that many of us have actually faced, and I did. When my last book was published, I mean, my second self-published book was in 2019, and this one came out in 2023. So there was a 4-year gap in between, and part of it was because of my academic commitments. I had my 10th and my 12th, and so I kind of was, I kind of went slow on writing, but that's just how it is. So.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm sure this all comes with experience.
I think there's a question I have on my direct chat. Sahana Vijay Kumar says, what is your best and favorite book?
Okay.
Now, I think there are two parts to this. I mean, best book and favorite book. My favorite book is essentially So there's a series actually. Anything that Devdutt Patnaik brings out is kind of my favorite. So I'm a Devdutt Patnaik fan, and it is partly because Devdutt Patnaik sir's writings were, brought out in a manner that had several researched bits of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata from several different versions, including the Javanese version, the Burmese version, the South Indian version, the Bengali version for that matter. So what he did is essentially integrate all of this together and bring out a volume that was kind of easily, that is kind of easily understandable to readers of today's world. So that's kind of what I like best about Devdutt sir's work. So as such, Jaya, Sita, all of these are kind of my most favorite works when it comes to what I love reading. But about the best book that I have written as of yet, I think I would go for Pratap Jung because it's the last one I brought out, the most recent one, and it's got a gripping visual depiction as well as characterization that I think stands true to a great extent. So yeah, I'd go for that.
Wow, wow. I'm receiving one more question, and this question is from Master Vineet. He wants to know who has been your biggest inspiration or role model and why.
Right. So once again, I think there are two segments to this. Firstly, when it comes to the industry, my role models have been Amish Tripathi ji, who is currently the director of the Nehru Centre, London. Amish Tripathi ji is among one of India's finest mythological fiction writers and was probably the first whose works sold in the bestseller lists, because of the popular medium it was written in. So he essentially wrote it in the fictional format, and he kind of wanted to popularize the tales. I mean, essentially what I am trying to do. But I'm a beginner, and Amish has been greatly inspirational for me. Second is Anand Nilkantan ji. Anand Nilkantan ji was essentially a PM Yuva mentor as well, and is the writer of the Bahubali series. And Anand Nilkantan ji produces good literature for children. So he's been working with Penguin. I mean, he's been writing with Penguin for some time now, and his ideas, his thoughts about how to go about historical fiction, how to essentially start writing books and go about with your research process. Those are something that resonated with me while I was there, listening to his session when we had our mentorship classes all conducted by the National Book Trust. And and yeah, so I think in the literary space, Amish Tripathi ji and Anand Nilkantan ji have been great inspiring figures for me, and also Devdutt Patnaik ji for the manner in which he brings about a voluminous book volume, kind of narrating what different versions of the same epic have to say. In the personal space, I think my parents have been very inspiring for me. So essentially, they have been supporting me ever since I can remember. So when I first started my work in 2013, I guess, yes, they were kind of all enthusiastic about exploring the publishing process, the publishing industry, and anything concerning authorship in general with me. And I think that kind of has helped me navigate the world, navigate the publishing industry from being a self-published writer to being a traditionally published writer. So yeah, some of it is also due to them.
Wow, wow, wow. We have one more question from Vishakha. She wants to know that how much time did it take to write each of the books? Like, I think the duration of the writing.
Right. So my first work was somewhere around 18 months, I would say. It is a work of poetry, and I of the research bit, I think the research bit was significant at that point of time because I went through several works, including some by Edwin Arnold, who's a famous writer. I think his most famous work is the Light of Asia, and many greats, including Tagore and Nehru, have found their inspiration in Edwin Arnold. So kind of how he wanted to retell the Indian epics, the tales of the old, through the poetic format. I think that was something I highly regarded at that point of time. So for the research bit, it was around 6 months, and the rest of the 12 months were for the writing part. So in total, I think 18 months for the first work. For my recent work, my most recent work, Pratap Jung, NBT had given us a deadline. So, we had to get the work done within 6 months because that was the duration of the mentorship, as was notified by the ministry. And as such, I got it done within 6 months. But a major part of that was researching, because I visited several places. Like I said, I went to the complex at Kaiser Bagh. Kaiser Bagh is essentially the capital, as it used to be in Lucknow, in present day Lucknow. I also visited the premises of the residency quarters, and even the Asiatic Society of Bombay and Bengal, and the National Library, to go through some of these primary sources, some of these secondary sources as well, and to bring about something. Now, for this, I'm just gonna sort of bring forward a few of the primary sources I referred to while writing my work, because that is what kind of took the most major segment. For instance, I did a little research of Widow's Reminiscence of the Siege of Lucknow. It's a particular work by Catherine Mary Bottom. This was published in 1858. It's a contemporary record of the siege that I followed. So, like I said earlier, Aniket, when you're talking about the world building, when you're talking about recreating the ambience as it used to be back at that point of time, you need to follow the contemporary accounts of the siege, and that is something I particularly did. But yeah, it was all within the 6 month time frame. It was a bit packed at that point of time, but so NBT has given us a had given us a duration within which to complete, because at the end of the day, it's being written under a fellowship scheme. So yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of how many months it took me. I think there's another question here. Somebody sent that to me in the direct. Hari Krishna, well, were there any good or bad comments for your first book? Now, but my first book, I'm just going to go with my first traditionally published debut, which is Pratap Jung. So this recently came out in the New Delhi World Book Fair, and I'm yet to receive comments from people, but I have been receiving a few feedbacks and thoughts on the work, and as also suggestions for my upcoming works from several people, who have read a bit about the work and also have gone through it, like halfway through it maybe. And most of those are positive, to be honest. But essentially, at the same time, you should be open as an author. You should be open to critical feedbacks as well, because at the end of the day, they're only trying to help you develop your writing style, because that's a part of being an author. So essentially, when you start, you would see that by the time you mature as you write. That's the way I see it. You mature as you write. And yeah, these comments, the feedbacks, whether they be negative or positive, there are essentially no negative feedbacks as I see it. It's essentially either a critical analysis of places where you could have better done the job, or there's an appreciation from their end, from the reader's end. And these are things I highly look forward to.
Okay, nice. I just would like to convey to the audience that can you please turn on your screen and ask your question directly instead of writing in the chat box, because this is a great opportunity where you can interact with Souhardya directly yourself. Instead of writing questions in the chat box, I would suggest that you please turn on your video and raise your hand so that we can help you directly interact with Souhardya. Use this opportunity to communicate with him and learn from the best. This is a great opportunity. Make the best of it. So please, if you have any question, raise your hands. Okay, we have a question. We have a question from Hari Krishna AS. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
So now you are an author. Before in your childhood, what was your aim? Or from your childhood, your aim is an author, to become an author?
I mean, like I said, I have never really aimed at becoming an author. Like I've never really aimed at becoming a full-time author per se. I've always been into the civil service and bureaucracy. So my aim is essentially, getting into the Indian Foreign Service and representing India on a global scale. But yeah, I mean, whenever you have the urge of telling your story to the world, telling your perspective to the world, bringing that out, I think authorship helps. So that is how I got into writing. Essentially didn't want to be a writer in the first place, just got into writing per se. And yeah, I mean, here I am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Hari Krishna, for asking question. I would like all of you to ask your question like Hari Krishna did. Please raise your hand and turn on your video. This is a great opportunity where you can directly interact with Souhardya. I'm still getting a lot of questions in the chat. I think let's just continue with the chat again.
Sure.
I really hope they can, turn on the screen and ask directly and use the best of this opportunity.
Aniket, you're not visible on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, you know.
I must put myself. Okay. So there was one more question in my chat. Okay, today time is totally internet time. How can we motivate the children for writing books?
Good question. Honestly speaking, internet time and books, writing books, I think these haven't got a clash, to be honest, because I'm an avid social media user myself. And even when you use your internet, there are places, there are ways in which you can develop yourself. So for instance, I use the internet specifically for going through works. I use the internet for browsing through secondary sources and primary sources. There's in Flipnet, then there's the National Digital Library of India, places you can browse through and look. You can look at the resources out there to find inspiration for your upcoming work. So whatever you're planning to do. Plus, in today's world, I think the great benefit of having internet is that writers. Earlier, they essentially used to mail hard copies of their works to the publishers for their consideration. In today's world, we don't have to take the pains of doing that anymore. So essentially, that laborious effort is, kind of set aside. What we do is create a Google Doc, to share that with the editor or send the PDF version whenever we get done with the work. So I think internet has eased things for writers to a very great extent. So I would not necessarily see it as a conflictive force, but as something that's coming supplementary, but as something that's coming kind of additional in addition to the authorship segment. So internet has eased things for us writers. Now, when I talk about social media, I said I'm an avid social media user. I'm also into podcasting. So whenever I have my upcoming workout, whenever I have my latest release out, what I do is I use social media to promote it. I even reach out to a few people on social media, including to a few of my mentors, including Anand Neelkant and so for that matter, post sections with them and promote your work. Promote my voice per se through social media or through the podcasting platform. So that's essentially helped us, I guess. That's the way I view it.
Nice. Okay, we have one more question from Hari Krishna AS. Can you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Sir, writing history-based books. For that, would you have you referred any other books, or have you seen any have you found any archaeological sources for writing them?
Right. So essentially, I write historical fiction, like I said, which is kind of it comes between, right? So there's a merger there. You have the imaginative bit as well. You have the historical bit as well. And I try to keep it in a balanced approach. Somewhere around 60-40 per se. My characters are all real. The depictions, the characterizations, and the incidents become fictional. So I don't really need to do an archaeological field study or something of that sort, but I do, go around the place a bit, essentially to build the world, like I said, to recreate the past, because visualization is an important component in historical fiction writing. And apart from that, I do go through certain primary sources and certain secondary sources as well to ensure that the work has the relatability component to it. By primary sources, I refer to contemporary accounts of whatever I'm writing. So, for instance, in my latest book, Pratap Jong, I referred to several contemporary accounts where you have the depiction of the siege being written about by defenders of the residency. Defenders, as in people who were, in the English residency at that point of time. So, essentially, that helps in building both the relatability aspect as well as, help build the narrative. I think that's the way I see it. So there's no archaeological field, sort of study per se that's involved.
Okay, wow. Okay, I would like to ask one question from myself. from your experience and from your learnings, what message would you like to share with our young audience?
Right. Essentially, this is something that every author would, and I think they'd agree when I say, it's important to read as much as you can. It's important to grasp, the different genres that you find in front of you. It's important to take inspiration from around yourself. And I think literature is the best medium for that, right? So, I mean, there's a flow of ideas in there, and especially for the young, I mean, people in the young audience who would wish to become writers in the future, or even pen down their thoughts. It's important, like I said earlier, to be proactive, to be perceptive of your environment, and to take inspiration from whatever source that be. You could just find inspiration everywhere. So yeah, read as widely as you can, grasp as many different genres as you can. I think find inspiration in things. That's like the best thing that comes to my mind at the moment, because reading is like the ultimate solution to everything. It's your ultimate companion as well. The people say, right, books are your greatest friends.
Right.
So there's that as well. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the relationship of a man with the book, I mean, of a person with the book, isn't something that's going to disappoint you at the end. And I mean, I remember this particular saying, and this was by Ashwin Sanghi sir at the New Delhi World Book Fair, where he kind of said that the shortest distance, and I quote him, between two persons is basically a story, a good story. And that's kind of something that struck hard. uh, so yeah, you can relate to that, right? And I mean, reading essentially is a solution to everything. I mean, I just talked about. So that's like the greatest message that I think comes to my mind at the moment.
Mhm. Nice. Okay, so you're an author, you have been a columnist also, you write for the Sunday Guardian, and you are a podcaster also. So how do you manage your time with, with full-time studies, education, and with your hobbies and your interests? And this is going to be your career in the field of writing. How do you manage this? How do you prioritize things?
First things first, I'm out of school. So there's no school academic commitments at the moment. I'm pursuing my undergrad certificate at the University of Cambridge.
Oh,
And
yes.
so there's the academic part of it. There's the academic segment of it that you commit a great deal of time to. And, the fact that we're here to manage our time, I think time management is an integral skill when you talk about that. But as an author, and a podcast and a columnist per se, I don't think I've had to deal with many challenges, because I usually do it when I find free time. Now, people need free time to get sort of refreshed and sort of get recharged when you're in the academic space as well. And I mean, yes, academic commitments do clash a little. And for instance, I mentioned a little earlier, when I was in my 10th and in my 12th, I think I purely focused on my academics, as a result of which my work, Pratap Jung, I mean, I had the idea of bringing Pratap Jung's, I mean, Lal Pratap's story out to the world in the form of work long back, when I first saw his stamp collection, which was in 2008 to 9, I guess. Back then I was 5 years old, but I was curious about stamps, and I was a stamp collector. What I used to do is, I used to have this sort of notebook, where when the government used to release the stamps, I noted down the names of the freedom fighters and whatever they did, and important books concerning them, or their lives, and times, in that particular book. Now, Lal Pratap's stamp, so far I can remember, was released alongside several other notable freedom fighters. But while these other freedom fighters had certain books to their names, Lal Pratap hadn't been written about or talked about per se. Which is when I kind of gained the inspiration for writing about Lal Pratap, and gained this urge, within me to bring his story out to the world. But yeah, I mean, that didn't really happen till PM Yuva scheme was launched, primarily because of my academic commitments. Especially when you're in the 10th and the 12th, you can't. I mean, many of us here would agree. You kind of need to focus on that, because both are important. At the end of the day, I'm speaking this. I mean, I do not want to sound, like unrealistic per se. It's the real world, so you need to think practical. And 10th and 12th are important. And as such, it's important to manage your time. It's important to manage your schedule, and that's something I looked up to. So I essentially worked during my vacations, and I, even today, I work late at night and during my weekends mostly, because that kind of helps me recharge, because I get to do what I love, and kind of also helps me advance. So in the writing career thing. So that's a bit, I guess.
Exactly. Like one should be wondering, why you chose Pratap Jung instead of like Mahatma Gandhi or Jawaharlal Nehru or anybody else. Like, why was it only Pratap Jung?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, apart from the stamp, also, I think the Honorable Prime Minister made it very clear when the scheme was first launched that our aim, I mean, the scheme's aim, the ministry's aim in bringing about the scheme is to bring to limelight some of these unsung heroes from the Indian
Right.
freedom struggle, who have contributed a great deal, who sacrificed their lives for India's independence. We are here today because of them, right? And many of them are not being read about. Many of them have long been forgotten. So I think Lal Pratap Singh is one of these characters, that kind of stood out to me when I first started researching about the characters I could possibly write about. So which is why I kind of decided to go forward.
Wow. Okay. So as we are approaching towards the end of the episode, um, in case your question hasn't been answered, please you can write your question. Feel free to write your question to me, and we can convey the question to Souhardya. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So you can write your questions to aniket@camp.res.in. I'll just write my email in the chat box. So you can ask your question, aniket@camp.res.in. You can mail me, and then you can convey it to Souhardya, and you'll get the answer in some time. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Ashi. Thank you so much for spending your precious time for us. I would like to, ask you, like, what is your feedback for our episode? How do you feel? I think you're on mute. Sohade, can you hear?
No, I think Arshi's muted.
No, she's not mute, but
Okay.
Now, can you hear?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, right.
Okay. I will say that it's an interesting episode, and it's always fun to hear Souhardya talking. When he talks, it's a non-stop thing, and it's very informative. So for kids, he's a good inspiration, actually a great inspiration. So learn from him, contact him, trouble him as much as you can, and it's a good episode, a very good one, and it's an inspiration. And I can say his age, we were not that forthcoming when it came to achieving our dreams. It took a long time for us.
Mhm.
So kudos, kid.
Thank you.
Exactly. It is all about the resources. So that's what camp wants to provide. Like camp wants to provide certain resources to individuals. Like we also provide scientific excursions for students, to get the exact practical value from the scientific labs in India, like CSIR labs, DRDO labs, ISRO lab. So we take students to the certain labs and provide practical exposure so that they can learn more. That is something definitely that wasn't back then in our time. So
Definitely not our time. It took us a very long time to get here and work pretty hard and take a long road.
mhm,
Plus, we were not that driven also like this one.
definitely he is prodigal child.
True.
Thank you,
Uh,
thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much. Although I agree, I mean, some of it was an exaggeration, but I'm not going to go into that. But thank you very much, Aniket, for having me here today. It was a great pleasure, interacting with young minds, and I'm sure we'd see. Okay, so NBT has also come up with the PM Yuva 2.0.
oh,
The submissions for which have been completed, and I guess they're now going through the evaluation process and stuff. And so yeah, we do expect to see some sort of more informative body of literature, especially in non-fiction genre, come up quite soon. And should any of you wish to go through the entire PM Yuva collection, I'm going to share the link to that as well It's up on the NBT website. This is the entire PM Yuva series. Just give me a moment. I'll just drop in the link to that. Right. Yeah. Is that viewable?
Yes, we can see it. Yuva series, the link, yes. Catalog.
Right. Right. So that essentially is the collection, whatever has been published in this, under the purview of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav as part of the Yuva series. And there are several books in this, in different Indian languages, in all the 22 different official languages, including English, so 23 languages in total, from different parts of India. So you have authors from Assam, you have authors from Kashmir, authors from the South, and in total, they've also highlighted several freedom fighters, and unsung freedom fighters are range from those in the central Indian provinces to the Deccan, to Bengal and stuff. So I think all of these works are great reads. Okay, I have a direct message that says, "What is the name of the Lord Sri Ram's book?" Okay, so you refer to. I mean, there are two of them. The first, this one's called The Shine of Suryavansh. This was published in 2017, and here I have the Chronicles of Suryavansh. This is essentially in the dramatic format, and this was published in 2019. So you can also find these on Amazon. It contains mostly everything, excluding the Love Kush Kanda, the Uttara Kanda part, because there's a belief that was added later, which is kind of a unanimous opinion of scholarship. And for the second book, it mostly deals with the Suryavanshi ancestors, who came before Ram, Lord Sri Ram. I think we were speaking right after, Ram Navami. So, it's also pertinent to wish a happy Ram Navami to everyone here.
Okay. Okay, I'm sure that you all enjoyed today's session and learned a lot from a young achiever. In case you have missed something, don't worry. A recording of the session will be available on our YouTube channel under the playlist of Achievers. And do you know that you can also be a part of the Camp Achievers program? Just have to send us your details. If you have also done something that exceptional or innovative in life, this would be a great opportunity to showcase your journey. On Camp Achiever, you may connect with the right people and gain your true potential. So thank you so much. Thank you, Souhardya.
Thank you.
Part of the episode.
It's a great pleasure to have. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We will be sending you a memento for being as expressing gratitude. Like we would like to express our gratitude, and we will be sending a memento for that. I'm sure we have your address. I hope.
Sure. Right.
Right. So my team will connect with you, and they'll be sending you that memento as a token of appreciation.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. And now to my wonderful audience, I would also like to inform you that for our registered participants, CAMP is organizing fortnightly session on Thursday at 4 p.m. Kindly note the day and time to participate in these planned workshops. Get the participation link under your student login 2 days before the upcoming workshop. So I would like to mention that our next workshop will be on evolution of mammals by Aswata Biju, who is the youngest paleontologist in India. The purpose of CAMP's fortnightly workshop is to help students develop creativity, meaningful learning, and critical reading and thinking skills that bring out their inherent abilities of the students. The vision of CAMP is to identify and capture scientific and technological temperament in students to make India a global leader in the field of science, technology, and humanity. Such workshops conducted by CAMP deal with various topics that fall under the category of science, technology innovation, scientific and life skills, career and professional development, academic development. CAMP believes that with exposure to such topics from experts within such specific fields, students will become aware of real life situations and challenges, develop a helping, problem-solving nature wherever possible, understand their core values and personal interests. You can also evaluate your skills, discover your hidden talents, within the given area and achieve your best in the most desirable way. So thank you so much. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being such a fantastic audience and supporting us always. Thank you so much. I hope you will continue to support us with the same curiosity and motivation to learn from our other episodes too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.